Welcome to Conversations on the Coast, the Bay Area's premier author interview program. And I'm just going to start by reading a headline from the Los Angeles Times, and then you'll know. It's the underworld of the 1960s and 1970s. Murder, blood, sex, power, style, lingo, terse sentences. Vintage James Ellroy. Welcome back.
It's good to be back, but that guy's got it all wrong.
Oh, dear. He's sorry.
He's got it all wrong. Women need to be reviewing this book. They get it more consistently than men. This book is about ideology. This book is about belief. This book is about rebelliousness, revolution of the soul, and political conversion. It's the story of a lost boy who finds his way into a matriarchy formed by strong women. This guy, Richard Rayner, who reviewed this book for the LA Times, has it wrong.
And you have it right, of course.
Oh, right. I wrote the book.
You wrote the book. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
This is the third in a trilogy.
Jim, this is the third in the Underworld trilogy. The first book, American Tabloid, covers 58 to 63. Largely the story of the rise and fall of John F. Kennedy. Second book, The Cold 6000, goes 63 to 68. My big book of the 60s. This book goes 68 to 72.
And this third book, as you say, begins in 68, and it follows the latest wave of the assassinations, and it covers 4 years of history. Watergate break-in and the end of the Nixon administration.
I stay short of Watergate because most of those guys are still alive and they can sue you. But it ends with the demise of gay Edgar Hoover. a wonderful American fiend, a celibate homosexual, never had sex with man, woman, or beast. If he had, he wouldn't have abused power to the extent that he did.
Mm-hmm. He would have done better.
He would have done better. He'd have been a better human being. God bless him. May he rest in peace.
There are, as in the other two books in the trilogy, characters that we would recognize, historical figures.
Right.
One of my favorites in this one is Rebozo.
B.B. Rebozo was Tricky Dick Nixon's best friend. Cuban-American man, a magnet. Didn't say much. Nixon liked having him around. B.B. Rebozo's got a walk-on. Tricky Dick Nixon's on there. Blotto, a couple of times talking to some of my heroes.
Yeah.
We got a lot of gay Edgar Hoover. We got Howard Hughes, a.k.a. Dracula, getting blood transfusions of allegedly pure Mormon blood. You know what black folks say to each other? What it is, blood? Yeah. With Howard Hughes, that had an all-new significance.
And Howard is always looking for the solution to the Negro problem. I mean, and for him, the problem apparently is that they're around.
Yeah, and he doesn't dig that. He was a racist. He was a bad human being, yeah. He allegedly stretched lubricated condoms over every doorknob that black folks might have touched. And if he didn't, he should have, because it's a damn good detail. Sometimes I've been writing historical fiction for so long, I forget what's real and what's not.
Do you have any problem with that?
With what? Forgetting what's real and what's not?
No, that the fact that some of the things in these books are real and some of them are not.
Moral problem?
Perhaps.
No. My job is to rewrite history to my own specifications. If the intense human infrastructure of big public events that I give you is credible, then the books will impart verisimilitude.
And that they do.
Yes.
That they do. The other amazing thing about what you do, in my opinion, and I'm not a critic, is that you give us a huge cast of characters.
Right.
And what they do always seems to intermesh with what other characters are doing. Yeah. I find that absolutely staggering achievement. I guess keeping them all straight is what I'm saying.
I start with research briefs. I do threadbare research. I send people to various locales. the Dominican Republic and Haiti in this case. And they compile fact sheets and chronologies for me so that I don't write myself into factual error. Then I write copious notes, and then I write 400-page outlines, and then I write the damn book. So everything is thought out well in advance.
And then you don't worry about combining the fictitious character with the historical character because the basic research has been done.
Yeah, it's credible. It's credible. Yeah.
We'll look at some of the characters in Bloods a Rover when we continue our conversation with James Ellroy, the man that one critic has called the premier lunatic of American letters. We'll check that out when we come back.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
Bloods a Rover is the title today. James Ellroy, the author. And this book, as I guess almost all of what you've written, maybe not, published by Alfred A. Knopf.
Yeah.
We'll get it. We'll talk about Alfred A. Knopf a little later, if you don't mind. And the medium that called you the premier lunatic of American letters is Publishers Weekly.
Right.
Do you wear that proudly?
It's a compliment. I'll take it. I write exceedingly dark, violent, funny, outrageous books. They're also diligently, meticulously crafted. They're moral. They're full of religious fire. They're full of ideology. They're full of great romantic stories. You know what, Jim? It's a patronizing thing to say, but I'll take it.
That's what I thought it was. I was wondering whether they read any of your stuff.
Right.
Or just, went down this way with their finger in speed reading.
Right.
I mean, after all, here this new book starts with a quote from A.E. Housman. Clay lies still, but blood's a rover. That's obviously where the title comes from. And the verse goes on, breaths aware that will not keep up, lad. When the journey's over, there'll be time enough to sleep.
The moral exhaustion of bad men. Bad men in love with strong women. It's my theme.
In this one. Yep.
It's my theme in general. Yeah.
That's interesting. Now, it can also be described, as the Washington Post does, as a novel that uses the materials of crime fiction to examine the forces that have shaped and warped our recent history. And is this something, this way that you write history, if you will?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Is it unique? Is there anybody else doing this?
I don't think so. I've taken the conventions of the caper novel and noir and the crime novel and applied them to geopolitics. They're social novels in the truest sense. Look at the size of them. They're 650 pages.
Yeah.
And they cover large swaths of American history. No one else is doing this.
I don't think so. And precisely what you're doing in short form, you put right into this book. Could you read that opening?
Here's the prologue. America! I window peeped 4 years of our history. It was one long mobile stakeout and kick the door in shakedown. I had a license to steal and a ticket to ride. I followed people. I bugged and tapped and cut big events in ellipsis. I remained unknown. My surveillance links the then to the now in a never-before revealed manner. I was there. My reportage is buttressed by credible hearsay and insider tattle. Massive paper trails provide verification. This book derives from stolen public files and usurped private journals. It is the sum of personal adventure and 40 years of scholarship. I am a literary executor and an agent provocateur. I did what I did and saw what I saw and learned my way through to the rest of the story. Scripture pure veracity and scandal rag content. That conjunction gives it its sizzle. You carry the seed of belief within you already. You recall the time this narrative captures and sense conspiracy. I am here to tell you that it is all true and not at all what you think. You'll read with some reluctance and capitulate in the end. The following pages will force you to succumb. I am going to tell you everything.
And succumb one does. Succumb one does.
If you believe the history, if you believe the level of collusion, if you believe the private lives of the people who form the infrastructure of the big public events, I've done my job.
The person in the book, the character in the book, who most fits that description of what you're doing is a fellow by the name of Crutchfield.
Yeah.
And he is somebody that I'd like to talk to you about a little more.
Don Crutchfield is a real-life private eye friend of mine. You can find him on pi4, the number 4.stars.com. And he was a wheelman in the 50s and 60s. He tailed cheating spouses, kicked indoors, and took pictures of the people bawling.
We're going to continue that when we come back from this break.
You're listening to Conversations on the Coast with Jim Foster. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.
The program is Conversations on the Coast. The book today, Blood's a Rover. It's a novel by James Ellroy, published by Alfred A. Knopf, and a magazine from across the pond, The Economist. Wrote in part, no living crime writer so unflinchingly chronicles the darkest aspects of American history. In Blood's a Rover, Ellroy reveals his keen eye for the shapes that lurk within shadows, to the best effect of his career. This novel is like a white dwarf, all mass and density. Blood's a Rover achieves a greater depth, emotional resonance, and sense of closure than his earlier books. This trilogy is a work of ambition unmatched among contemporary crime novelists. Only Roberto Bolaño, with his genre-bending mysteries, approaches Ellroy's skill at simultaneously hewing to and subverting the genre's conventions. I love that last part.
I'll take it. Yeah.
That's really marvelous. Yeah. Now let's get back to this. He's the youngest of the major characters.
He's a kid. He's 23. He's a wheelman. He tails cheating spouses, kicks indoors, and takes pictures of them. He is the dip kid who becomes the voice of American history. He's indestructible. He's indefatigable. He's unstoppable. He is ingenious. He lives among us today. I have used him as a real-life character. We're good friends.
And one of the searches he conducts, and that's what he does a lot of, is search, is for a boy who went missing, Reginald Hazard.
Right.
And I'm fascinated by that search, I guess because I'm fascinated by his mother, one of your great woman characters in here.
Yes, Mary Beth Hazard is a black woman, a civil rights activist, and her son Reginald disappeared in December 1963, largely under the auspices and the tutelage of a left-wing woman revolutionary named Joan Rosen Klein.
And Joan Rosen Klein is a quest also.
He's always looking for Joan Rosencline.
Yeah. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating guy. I mean, I like the other ones, that you brought back from the previous book, but I really fell in love with Crutch. I really did.
He's the kid. He's the boy. He's 23. He stumbles into the cadre of the men who killed the Kennedys and MLK, and they're tired of killing people, and they decide to let him live.
Yeah. That's right. You're published by Alfred A. Knopf, and at first glance, that's a strange place for you to be.
Why? Why would you say that?
Well, not for me. I understand why you're there. But for people who read you superficially,
right,
they would think it's a strange place to be.
Well,
but you really belong there.
I am more than a crime writer and simultaneously the greatest living crime writer, and they have always published the best. James M. Cain, Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, Ross MacDonald, Patricia Highsmith, John le Carre, George V. Higgins.
Always.
Yeah.
And it also gives one hope, doesn't it? I mean, the fact that they're still at it, still publishing what you called the other evening books between hardcovers, that there's some future for books between hardcovers?
The book will survive. We're going to be just fine. We're going to be just fine. This is not the Great Depression. Obama's not the savior. Don't worry about it. Go out, get laid, have some bleak sexual liaisons. Come on. Why are you in San Francisco if you can't have some bleak anonymous sexual liaisons? Enjoy life while you can. It's a short ride. Roll the dice.
One of the thing that you do that makes it all work, in as you put it yourself, is your outline.
Right.
Is there anybody else who does that?
No, nobody has the stamina to write a 400-page outline most people are writing on. Contracts that require them to turn books around quick. I take my damn time. I ask my publishers for less money. I'm doing okay. I'm not out to get rich. I'm out to create a substantial body of work.
That makes you very different from most writers, most authors.
I'm making a couple of bucks. I'm happy. Yeah.
And you're not rushing one after the other.
No, I'm not.
That's great.
Jim, I'm just here, as Rush Limbaugh says, with talent on loan from God.
And he's been on Conversations on the Coast. His name is James Ellroy. His latest book, Blood's a Rover. You better go out and get it or you'll be in big trouble. Published by Alfred A. Knopf. This is Conversations on the Coast, and I'm Jim Foster.
Follow us on Twitter at Jim Foster COC or send an email to jimfostercoc@gmail.com.